Can you do the last one where there is like a snake woman? By the way, I love the channel. Aw, I love you too, but a snake woman. Which one was that again? This motherfucker looks better than the monsters in Shake, Rattle, and Roll 15. And these two movies are 8 years apart. Oh, fuck. Our first story is titled Ahas or Snake. Okay, this is too early to rant, but you know what we are going to be dealing with. Our story begins in a CGI mall. Alegria Mall, where we meet this girl Adela as she's trying on some skimpy nightgown, presumably as a surprise for her fiance. When suddenly the room shakes and the lights start flickering. She opens the door of the fitting room, but instead of the mall, she finds herself in a dilapidated chamber with some rusty looking pipes and a bathtub. She starts calling for her boyfriend Troy when we see a big snake-looking creature pop up behind the mirror. The snake then attacks her, but as she turns, we cut to Troy getting startled awake. We move back to the mall in the morning as this fashion designer Iggy Moda is planning the mall's 25th anniversary event. We see Troy getting ordered around by Iggy when we also see a strange girl looking at him through the vents, silently calling for him. The organizers all get into a meeting talking about the upcoming anniversary where we meet Sandra Alegria, the head of the company. Some workers gossip about her not having snake skin, and she takes this opportunity to shut down any rumors of any half-woman, half-snake creatures inside the mall, as well as her having a twin sister. She finishes her whole spiel while giving some flirty looks to Troy. In the meeting, we also learned that, coincidentally, the 25th anniversary event also falls on Sandra's 25th birthday. On the other side of the mall, we see a girl suspiciously walking around the clothing store and taking a bunch of items. She starts a commotion when a store clerk tells her that she is limited to 3 items only, but she argues that because of the line, she doesn't want to go back and forth, adding that she wants to see the manager. Because of that, the clerk leads her to a special fitting room that she can use, but when she gets inside, the store clerk locks her in with a cheeky final goodbye. She starts stuffing herself with the clothes when suddenly she feels the room moving and the lights start flickering again. She opens the door, but she finds herself in the same decrepit looking area as Adela. She tries pleading for escape when we see a woman with snake looking features pop out, this obviously being Sandra's snake twin. The snake gets the jump on her, but when she tries running, she slips and starts wriggling in the ground. Literally nothing is holding you back right now. Now you pounce, you stupid fuck. Also, doesn't she kinda look like the Lago from Resident Evil 4? No, not the remake, the original one. She manages to get back in the fitting room, but the snake appears behind the mirror and smashes through the glass, with pieces of it puncturing her face. Injured, she crawls but doesn't get very far and gets eaten anyway. Back at the mall, Sandra asks Iggy for the theme of the collection, but they just say that it's a surprise, saying that there will be a shedding of skin. Okay. I don't think that's as subtle as you want it to be. If Sandra thinks even for just a second, along with the snake-looking decor you put up, she'll know what it is. We go to the snake woman's lair where we see her talking to herself, crushing on Troy. Here we learn that her name is Sarah, who seems to have that green goblin syndrome, as the other voice in her head berates her, saying that Troy will never like her, especially with how she looks. Well, I don't know about Troy, but in my experience on the internet, there are more than a handful of people who would be into that shit. I think some would even prefer the other form. We see Troy walking around the mall as he gets into the clothing store from earlier. He hovers around the fitting room to try and investigate as we hear some screaming from inside. He tries going near it but gets stopped by the clerk saying that they're closed. Sandra and Iggy meet up with Troy where we see Iggy having some one-sided animosity towards Troy, but they split up with Sandra borrowing Troy. Later that night, we see this janitor, Mang Badjo, talking to a security guard named Jay, suspecting him of being drunk. He leaves him as Mang Badjo enters an elevator going down to the snake's lair. Sarah calls on him where she starts sharing her crush on Troy while Mang Badjo just answers her looking fearfully. Sarah notices this and asks why he never looks at her, slowly getting angry. She forces him to look at her in full form, causing him to run back to the elevator. Sarah takes advantage of this and hitches a ride, telling him to keep it a secret. They get out and Mang Badjo immediately calls her father, Alberto Alegria. He is distraught by the news and gets a gun out of his cabinet. My guy, your daughter is a goddamn 20-foot snake monster. You have an assault rifle and you're still picking this pea shooter? I don't think I like your chances. Meanwhile, Jay sees Sarah but mistakes her for Sandra and they start playfully flirting. That is until Sarah shows up with her snake body and starts getting angry at the guard for being afraid. He runs away and Sarah starts chasing him down. We cut back to the human twin at her home accompanied by Troy. They're talking about Iggy's planned theme for the event where Sandra says this event might be for the best so that they can finally laugh at the silly rumors about her sister and put it behind them. Troy tries pressing her with questions to see if there is any truth to the rumor, but Sandra just brushes it off. They get interrupted by her father as we cut back to the guard getting manhandled by Sarah. Meanwhile, Alberto asks Sandra to make Troy leave while vaguely saying that she's alive. Troy overhears this and tries acting all nonchalant, but he is asked by Sandra to leave. leave. She goes back to her father and it turns out that she does know about her slithery little sister, but was lied to about her fate because she starts berating her father that he told her she was dead. We get an exposition dump as Alberto starts explaining the true history of her sister. Apparently, Sarah was the result of him going to a witch asking for riches, the price of which was one of his daughters. By saying that 5 times fast. His wife, though, not being aware of any of this. He locks Sarah down at their mall where she still lives to this day because she is the source of their wealth. In the past, Sandra visited her from time to time, where he fed her animals, but as she grew, so did her hunger. At one time eating a human when a worker accidentally fell while they were doing construction. When Sandra left, he started thinking that he should kill Sarah, but he never had the guts to do it, so he continued feeding her humans, especially when he realized that the more she eats, the more they profit. However, now that she escaped, he finally decided that she has to die. Sandra still wants to talk to her though, and wants her father to give her a chance. We go to Troy, who goes back to his home as he reveals his evidence board where we see he has been investigating the Alegria family ever since his fiancée died. At the mall, Iggy unveils their huge statue of a snake woman. Alberto sees this and angrily orders them to take it back down. Alberto, Baggio, and Sandra go down to Sarah's lair to try and find her, but she finds them instead. Sarah starts thanking her dad where, because of the statue, she thinks that she is getting a birthday gift with her finally getting introduced to the whole world, and by that, Troy. He then asks who's Troy, which I then realized that he referred to Troy as that boy back at their home, which makes me wonder how much does he know about his daughter's life, because it's clear they've been dating for a while, unless he just trusts his daughter that much to let a random man inside their home. Well, he did lock his daughter in the basement of the mall, so I guess he's just that much of an absentee father. Anyway, speaking of Troy, he finally finds the elevator fitting room and goes down to the lair while Alberto is screaming at his daughter to shut the fuck up. Sarah starts squaring up when Sandra walks in to interrupt them. Sarah gets emotional upon seeing Sandra, where Sandra says that she will never leave her again, and they hug. Troy eavesdrops on them while Sarah is still stuck in her delusion that the celebration is for her, saying that Troy will protect her. But when Alberto tries getting her back to reality, Sarah starts getting angry. Sandra tries comforting Sarah again, but it doesn't work, and Sarah reveals that she knew Alberto tried killing her back then. Tensions rise eventually, causing Alberto to shoot at Sarah, missing a lot. If you bought the rifle, you could have just sprayed her. Because of his terrible aim, Sarah manages to trap him as Sandra looks on helplessly. Sarah throws her dad where he hits the bathtub and he dies. Sandra goes to him crying as Sarah looks on with a bit of remorse when Troy takes this window of opportunity to stab Sarah. They run away while she's writhing in pain, but this doesn't hold her for long as she gets into the vent, which, to be honest, looks a lot like those 360 VR videos. Troy and the others see Iggy's crew and try to warn them to get the hell out, but they don't, as Sarah admires her statue and then slaughters everybody, with Iggy getting backhanded and thrown through a glass, which knocks them out for the rest of this story. The remaining people continue running where they go to a hardware store to pick up some weapons. Sarah, having doubts about killing her own sister, runs off to try and talk to her again, but not before Troy reveals that her sister killed his wife, causing her to slap him for deceiving her. I'm pretty sure hiding that you have a snake monster sister is a bigger offense here, Sandra. Anyway, Sandra finds Sarah and tries talking to her again, saying that they can help each other and that they can hide away together. Though this doesn't work as Troy attacks Sarah from behind. He gets knocked on his ass with a psychic punch and then swallowed whole. But using the knife, he manages to cut through Sarah's stomach. Sarah slowly dies as she looks at her sister, reminiscing the time they spent together, while Troy somehow manages to find the bracelet that Adela was wearing at the start of the movie. You mean to tell me that that shit has not been digested or, well, shitted out and has just been living in her stomach this whole time? Regardless, the story ends with Troy leaving and Sandra holding Sarah's dead body in her arms. So this story is based on a real-life urban legend in the Philippines from the 90s concerning Robinson's Galleria. Get it? Alegria, Galleria. There are many different versions of the story, but from what I have been told and from what I can remember, the urban legend goes that back then women would go into dressing rooms where they would fall through hidden trap doors, not luxurious elevators, and proceed to get eaten by a snake-like creature. This creature being Robina Gokongwei Pei's twin brother. I guess the people who told it to me didn't think that a snake woman would be as deadly as a snake man. The most famous victim of this snake monster was said to be Alice Dixon, a Filipina actress, making this story all the more stupid when you realize that she's still alive today. To the person who started this urban legend, if you were gonna make something up, why not choose a celebrity who, I don't know, actually passed away already? Anyway, despite what people may have you believe, it's an urban legend. It's not fucking real. I'm just glad we have an urban legend that can go toe-to-toe with the Mothman. On to the next story. Our next story is titled Ulam or Beyond. We meet this couple, Amy and Henry, who clearly need a few new sparks in their relationship. They're moving into a new home with their daughter Julie, the father and daughter looking optimistic despite Julie being a bit creeped out, while the mom has her resting bitch face permanently equipped. The pair explore the house as the dad tries to find the house's maid, Aling Lina, while Amy explores the house on her own, still miserable as she throws a rock at some koi fish. Well, that's one way to make me not sympathize with her. No, I don't care what sad backstory she may or may not have. Back to Julie, she finds a picture of her grandmother Choleng and her grandfather Cesar, observing that they are just as miserable as her mother. On the desk, she also finds a picture of another woman whose identity remains a mystery for now, as Aling Lina finally shows up. Hey movie, you got a little something on your nose there. She is very familiar with the whole family as her father explains that she also took care of her grandparents. Aling Lina asks Amy if they plan to stay at the house, but she says they only plan to stay until they sell it. The couple is then left alone, but they don't really talk. Julie is busy trying to find her dog Tiny, saying that there is a lot of geckos in their hallway. She also sees a silhouette moving inside a room at the end of the hallway, but when she finds Tiny running off scared from the room, she also runs away. Smart kid. In the evening, both Amy and Lina are cooking, with Lina wondering why Amy is still cooking despite it being her job. Amy explains that it's because of Julie's allergies, and Lina begins to understand being a single mother herself. They start eating, with Julie complaining about how she has the same food again. All seems fine until Amy realizes that she has been chewing on a dead gecko's tail. This causes her to puke, and Henry gets angry at Lina. At night, Amy wakes up from a loud storm outside when she hears some noises somewhere around the house. Before she could investigate, she begins to puke again, and when she washes up in the sink, her appearance begins to change and her skin begins to peel off. She hears voices telling her to leave. When she tries to shower, a monster appears, causing her to panic, slip, and knock herself out on the toilet. If I have a peso for every time somebody gets knocked out by a bathroom furniture in this movie, I'd have 2 pesos. Which can at least get me some Mentos. The next morning, she appears fine, just staring blankly while preparing food for Julie. Then, as Henry drops off Julie at school, she admits that she heard footsteps at night, but he assures her that it was probably just her mom. Back at home, we see Amy coughing and calling for Lina, asking for aspirins, but when no one comes, she goes outside to look for her. Here, she finds some animal parts hanging from some branches and a shed in a far-off corner. How she didn't find these weird and not go investigate is baffling, cause she just continues looking for Lina. When she comes to the gate, she gets scared by Iggy Moda. Yes, the same Iggy Moda from the first story. Not counting the van from Shake, Rattle, and Roll 8, I think this is the first time we've seen an actual recurring character that returns from the first story. I haven't rewatched the others though, so I may be wrong in the future. It seems that Iggy survived their snake encounter but makes no mention of it as they check on Amy. Here she explains why she never really liked the idea of moving in this house and tells Iggy her story. Apparently this home is originally from Henry's grandmother Choleng, who, due to her superstitious beliefs, never approved of their marriage. Because Henry was born on the year of the dog while Amy was born on the year of the dragon. And when she learned that their daughter will be born on the year of the rat, she told them that they would have even more bad luck. But despite that, Henry went against his grandmother's wishes and chose Amy and Julie anyway. His grandmother dying, still angry at them. The house only fell to him because everybody else in the family migrated to other countries. Later that night, the family's eating again. Well, Henry's eating because Amy refuses to eat. So does Julie, who arrives trying to find Tiny. She begs Amy for something different to eat and Amy screams at her for refusing the food that she made. They then argue in the bedroom about Julie and the house situation, them unknowingly being overheard by their child. Julie sees some rustling outside her room and goes down, assuming this is Tiny. But before she goes, she sees a silhouette running across the house. Yeah, I think Tiny is no longer an appropriate name. Lina sees her and she leaves some food for Tiny outside her room. Julie tells her that she can't sleep because of her parents arguing, but Lina assures her that everything will be okay by tomorrow. That night, it is Henry's turn to hear voices as someone whispers, "Your child's mine." This wakes him up when he sees Amy suddenly has weird scales on her skin. He's delirious as he stumbles and pukes, seeing his hands has some fur on it. He goes to the bathroom where he sees his entire body covered in fur. He walks around the house trying to find Lina, asking for medicine, but when he stumbles on the food left by Lina, we also see a monstrous figure by the door. He runs back to the bedroom trying to wake Amy up, but gets scared by the same monster that screamed at Amy earlier. By morning, Henry just stares blankly, much like Amy, but dismisses it to Lina as just a bad dream. Lina tells him that Amy might still be sick, so she prepared Julie's food. He gets a coughing fit, seemingly getting sick, much like Amy. He drives Julie to school, who tries conversing with him on the way, but he doesn't say a word. During recess, Julie gets approached by some little shit stains who looks at her food, and when she kindly offers them some, they steal all of it. She's in class when the little kid who stole her food earlier starts feeling sick and then pukes out a bunch of little rats. All of this happening as Lena throws some food for the fishes. Symbolism. Henry gets home when he is informed about what happened in school, and the couple start arguing again, but suddenly turn into a physical altercation when Amy slaps Henry. Henry starts seeing scales on Amy's face while Amy sees Henry's grandmother. Continues hitting Henry but then suddenly collapses. Henry, seeing a silhouette in the hallway but prioritizes his wife while Lena suddenly forms a smile on her face. At the hospital, Iggy informs Henry of Amy's condition and tells him that they know about the couple's situation. Henry getting angry but apologizes afterwards. Henry and Julie drive home as his cough gets worse and he sees his eyes turn black in the mirror. He stops the car in confusion but is then startled by the monster hopping on the hood. While at home, Lena is mumbling to herself a little bit more as the silhouette continues roaming the house behind her. Amy wakes up finding scales on her skin again, calling to Iggy for help, but then Iggy turns into the monster and starts choking out Amy. The real Iggy waking up and calling for help, us seeing that the monster isn't really there. This scene looks very comedic to me for some reason when Iggy goes back and forth and our view of Amy changes. I don't know, it just looks so slapstick and made me laugh. Back to Henry, we see him growing fur as he sees his grandmother and starts growling at her, but then comes to his senses realizing that it's his daughter. The taxi driver meanwhile does not care what's happening in the back seat. 5 stars. Amy then wakes up and starts calling for Julie, but when the doctors decide to sedate her, she grabs a scalpel, then stabs the nurse in the back and stabs the doctor repeatedly in the neck. She walks out of the room, leaving Iggy behind, then she gets to the reception, drops the scalpel, picks up some scissors, and just slashes the other nurse. What? Why would you do that? That nurse did nothing to you. She also threatens another couple, but then just casually walks to the elevator. Is nobody gonna call for security around here? Does the hospital have budget cuts or something? Back at home, Henry appears to be under a spell, and when Julie begs that they go back to the hospital, Henry slaps her. God damn, there was a follow-through on that slap. Lena leads Henry to the kitchen where she feeds him some mysterious bloody meat off the floor, comparing him to her son who also acts like a dog when hungry. As Henry looks more and more like a dog in his reflection, she cryptically tells him we're done waiting. Julie is back in her room crying when her lights suddenly go out and hands start reaching out for her from underneath the bed. She runs away where we finally see this hunchback-looking creature that has been lurking around the house for forever in its full form. Julie hides from it while Lena prepares more food from the remains of the missing Tiny, throwing it on the floor as Henry continues eating off of it like a dog. The creature finds Julie, but she slams the door on his face and runs away. She gets chased around the house when we see a close-up of the creature's face, and look at that! Just look at it, it's so fucking good. Maybe they use some VFX to touch it up, but you can tell that it's a practical makeup and it is legitimately terrifying to look at. And then you look at this and there's a chance you just might die from laughter. Anyway, Julie runs into Aling Lena where she easily stops the creature in its tracks and commands it to let her go. Iggy arrives at the house to find Henry and they just brush off Aling Lena as she tries to stop them. They find Henry still eating Tiny off the floor, suspecting Lena of poisoning the couple. They try finding Julie, but when they try leaving, the creature bites on Iggy's cheek and they run away. But for some goddamn reason, they stop at the front of the house, allowing the creature to tackle them and chew more of their face off. They are left for dead as Lena and the creature go back to Julie. As Julie is being dragged away, Lena finally tells her side of the story. Apparently, Choling poisoned Lena as she was pregnant with her child, resulting in her son turning into this thing. The reason why is because Cesar was having an affair with Lena, and when Choling learned he got her pregnant, she started poisoning her, and when the baby was born, both of the grandparents kicked her out and made them live in the shack on the corner of the property, where Lena raised her son. Now, years later, because she didn't get revenge on the grandparents, she's taking her revenge on Henry and his family. Amy finally arrives in the house looking for Julie just as Lena finishes her monologue, which is very convenient. And also very convenient that the hospital did absolutely nothing about Amy. Lena leads Amy to her table, feeding her more lizards and Henry more dog meat. I get that she's feeding them the meat based on their zodiac signs to turn them, well, into their zodiac signs, Julie with rats and Henry with dogs, but why did you not choose a different one for Amy? Out of all the real animals in the Chinese zodiac, you chose the one where it is physically impossible to get the meat of? Well, I still applaud the lizard substitution though. Amy hears Julie and goes towards her as she arrives in the kitchen. Lena gives a knife to Henry and the couple start calling each other demons as Henry gets his dog fur and Lena gets her dragon scales. They then stab each other in slow motion, but then we cut to black and we see both of them on their knees. Well, that was anticlimactic. Lena gloats as Julie runs towards them, but when she is grabbed by Lena's son and thrown into the side table, Henry is able to snap out of his trance as he kills Lena's son by repeatedly stabbing him with the scissors in his shoulders. Lena grabs a broken shard and stabs Henry in the neck, killing him. Amy then snaps out of her trance as well, as the final shot in our story sees both mothers cradling their respective children. And that is the story of Ulam, or Beyond. By the way, to my fellow Filipinos, am I the only one weirded out by that translation? Like, I know that is the official translation, but every time I hear it, it just feels wrong. Like it needs to be a different word, you know what I mean? Side dish feels more appropriate, even though it isn't, because viands are the main dish. Oh fuck it, I feel like I'm alone in this. On to the last story. Our final story is Flight 666. We meet this guy Dave as he's arguing on the phone with his attorney while waiting for his flight. He mentions someone bleeding to death on the bathroom floor, which I don't know if it's a reference to something. So let me know if you do. When he gets called by an attendant to see if he is on Flight 666. What the fuck kind of fancy airport is this where you have attendants asking for your flight numbers personally? Anyway, he starts getting on board, where we meet the rest of our colorful cast of characters. We meet Grand Raffle winner Connie, who thinks she was going to London, but flight attendant Brian here makes it clear that they're just going to Zamboanga. Married couple Brandon and Miranda laugh as Miranda calls her cheap. Bitch, you're in the same fucking flight and the same class. The next to get on board is a famous vlogger named Gino, being attended to by Pamela. As he's filming, we see Jane and her Lola Juling already sat, Adam, who is setting up his bags, and Lovely, who is a very big fan of Gino. She acts surprised to see Gino, but Adam spills the tea, revealing they rebooked their flight specifically for Gino. His friend Ellie comes up to him, joking around, calling Lovely his stalker. We then meet Kuya Tim. What? Okay, if you don't know who he is, Kuya Kim is most famous for being a weather forecaster, but also a nature presenter in his show Matang Lawin, basically Filipino Steve Irwin, who, much like him, is a childhood icon to many people. He has this brand where he can spout trivia on a lot of general knowledge, which he makes use of when he explains this specific airplane to McCoy and his son Mackie. Pamela then sees this guy Carlos still futzing around with his bag, looking around suspiciously, and tells him to put it under his seat. Flight attendant Karen then starts walking around to check on the other passengers, helping out the pregnant Jane, calming down Adam complaining about the air conditioning, and then scolds somebody trying to light up a cigarette, who turns out to be Iggy fucking Moda. Holy shit, you are having such a bad weekend. But still, encountering two monsters and only a cheek scar to show for it? Props. Massive props. Hopefully you survive the next one though. They sleep after taking some meds, and we finally go full circle as Karen meets Dave, whose line delivery is as flat and dry as a cardboard, left out in the sun, in the Philippines, in the middle of the summer.
Hindi ko alam na nandito ka. I suppose you can't tell me to leave now.
Also, if the first time you meet someone is to tell them I didn't know you were here instead of hi, it makes me think you do know they were here. It's clear that they used to be in a relationship, as Karen apologizes today, but he just brushes her off. Pamela and Karen sit at the cockpit, where we are lucky enough that Pamela just spills all the tea about the couple's unborn baby. Karen doesn't want to talk about their history, understandably, and the plane finally takes off, as Lovely continues giving subtle hints to Gino. Bitch, do you have fucking lice? In the air, Lola Juling tells the pregnant Jane to tell the others that the father is a foreigner to hide her daughter's shame. Jane looks out concerned, where we get a flashback where it is revealed that the father is a forest creature who also pops out by the window, scaring her and startling everybody with her scream. Meanwhile, Carlos is still acting cagey and keeps looking at his bag, when Jane's belly then started hurting at the same time as Carlos pulls out a gun and a bomb, declaring that he is hijacking the plane. Yep, that's a bomb alright. In fact, it's the most bomb-looking bomb ever. Connie gets the urge to pee, but before she goes inside, she investigates the commotion happening in the other section. Carlos starts screaming for a doctor to help out Jane, as Connie runs back to the lavatory to hide, where she finds that Brandon and Miranda recently joined the Mile High Club and pushes them back inside. Karen calls out to Dave, who seems forced to admit he's a doctor, and he goes out to help out Jane, still putting no emotion whatsoever. Carlos calls out to Pamela to go with him to the cockpit, and while heading there, we discover that they are in cahoots, with Pamela panicking that it's not going according to plan. Either way though, they successfully managed to take control of the cockpit. Well, that was super easy. It was barely an inconvenience. While they're there, Carlos loses control of his hostages as some people gather to watch Jane deliver her baby, with Ellie vlogging in the middle of the hijacking. He would be a very great streamer today. The pilots recognize Carlos as someone who works for the airline, and apparently he was fired due to cost cutting and now demands 10 million from the airline. After some struggle, Jane manages to successfully deliver the baby, but the baby looks very purple. Though, to be honest, it looks like the baby has way more problems than that. Dave tries resuscitating the baby, but when Jane collapses, he turns his attention to her, giving the baby to Karen. While he's trying to resuscitate Jane, the baby suddenly opens its eyes, looking very much like a monster. The plane then starts experiencing some intense turbulence, which knocks out some of the people on board, with Lola Juling in particular getting a heavy metal box dropped on her head. When the people come to, Karen discovers that the baby is missing, and some of the people finds weird scars on their bodies, as a creature looks at Karen hiding underneath the seat. Karen sees Pamela and Carlos talking, calling out to her, which is dumb, prompting Carlos to go back and regain control of his hostages, Lola Juling and Jane having passed away. The people inside the bathroom are still inside the bathroom when Miranda tries going out. She is pulled back by Brandon though, but not before she opens the door, letting the creature inside. Connie says to just let her out, which causes the both of them to get into a fight, which Carlos hears. As they're fighting though, Brandon sees the creature, which attacks him and kills him. The two women also see the creature, which also kills them in turn. Their bodies are then discovered by Pamela when she opens the door. Carlos calls to Dave to try and assess the situation, with some other people getting up and eavesdropping again. Bro, you are the worst hostage taker ever. And if they really wanted to, they can easily overpower you with how much you let your guard down. But this is pure Filipino energy though. They're in the middle of a hijacking and still want to get the latest gossip, not just samosa. They go back to the crowd where Carlos tries to control the crowd for the third time, giving the bomb to Pamela, when suddenly the plane's electricity starts flickering as... Wait, who the fuck are you? Okay, I just went back and the only time we saw her before this is when she was praying when the plane took off. So clearly, she's just here as cannon fodder. So Miss Fodder over here feels some movement in her blanket. Lifting it up, she sees a baby's hand reach out and start attacking her. Carlos goes to her and tries to see what happened, but he finds her already dead. He calls out to his local doctor to check, but before he gets there, Carlos gets attacked, causing him to fire his gun, shooting Pamela square in the chest. Carlos goes to her, but then abandons her and picks up his gun to try and hunt down the creature. Meanwhile, the crowd here takes turns telling an unfunny joke to each other. Aw, that's cute. They're bonding. Kala mo mga tambay sa kanto. Ellie tells the rest to chill out, but when he realizes that his headphones fell, he goes to pick it up, discovering the creature beneath his feet, which then attacks him and kills him. Now we see the creature, Achanak, in its most beautiful and glorious digital form. The crowd runs as it kills McCoy and Mackie with its umbilical cord. Okay, that seems really silly, but also makes a lot of sense for a baby monster. But it's still weird to see it flopping around though. It tries to attack Karen, but Dave manages to dive for it just in time. They manage to run away as Carlos starts shooting at the Chanak. Carlos hunts for the monster, calling out to Adam to help him out, while the others start barricading the other section of the plane. They try to figure out what kind of creature it is, but Kuya Tim manages to identify it almost instantly. Adam tries rationalizing his survivability because he's a virgin and virgins survive horror movies, but then the umbilical cord then presents itself, which strangles him and kills him. Carlos tries shooting at the Chanak with his unlimited ammo pistol, but he is unsuccessful. Brian and the first officer tries stopping him, but Brian gets knocked down and the first officer gets killed. Carlos continues his hunt until he gets grabbed by the Chanak and he is then forced to shoot himself. Okay. If you were to ask me what methods a Chanak can use to kill people, making people shoot themselves is not one of them. I draw the line at strangulation by uncircumcised belly button. The Chanak then kills the pilot, which puts the plane in a nosedive, and for some goddamn reason, Karen still doesn't make the connection that the baby-shaped monster is the same baby with the monster's eyes that she held because she wants to save it when she hears it crying. But Kuya Tim, I fucking hate that they didn't just name him Kuya Kim, but Kuya Tim explains that it's a form-shifting baby depending on the moonlight. Brian gets to the cockpit where he calls Karen to tell them that the captain's dead, so they try to get Kuya Tim to the cockpit to fly it. Meanwhile, Gino and Lovely discover that the bomb has been activated and Karen discovers the baby crying and swaddles it in a blanket. But when Dave tries stopping her, the plane breaks through the clouds, revealing the moon, and the baby transforms into a Chanak again. Wait a minute, you said that the baby transforms if the moonlight touches it. How the fuck is the moonlight touching it? Does the airplane have a fucking sunroof or something? Or are you just telling me that the moonlight can penetrate through objects? Because if that was true, then why did the cloud stop it? Fix your monster lore, baby. They all run away from an admittedly easy threat. I mean, come on, that was a light tap and it flew away. It's not even stalking anymore, just attacking head on. Punt the mother killer. They get to the end of the plane where Iggy Moda finally wakes up from their nap. Iggy sees the monster and gets attacked for the third time in this movie. God damn it, while the others barricade themselves again. But yet Tim and Brian manage to land the plane, but the rough landing knocks out the others. Tim and Brian escape through the window, but the others aren't safe just yet. As they come to, Gino sees the Chanak. He almost gets attacked, but he is shielded by Lovely, who is subsequently killed by the Chanak. Gino mourns, but he is pulled back by Dave to get him to safety. They run and escape, and as the Chanak tries chasing them, it gets punched by Iggy fucking Moda. With a bloody face, they hold off the Chanak as both of them face each other when the bomb reaches 0 and it detonates. That's it. Iggy Moda is the most badass character in all of Shake, Rattle, and Roll history. Surviving 3 monsters and then dying in an explosion, that's some protagonist shit. Dave and Karen duck as the plane explodes, and later we see the survivors getting tended to by the police and the paramedics. Dave and Karen hug as they walk away together, but before the movie ends, we see them being stalked by the Chanak's dad. And that is the end of Shake, Rattle, and Roll 15. Okay, so I bet you can tell what the post-summary rant is going to be, and I will be the first to say that I don't really hate CGI that much. I just play it up for entertainment because in reality, I don't really care. Because if it's good, I don't notice it. If it's bad, I can look past it. But when it's done this poorly, I cannot suspend my disbelief while watching because I just end up getting distracted by the fucking PS2 graphics. Like, I can't immerse myself in the story because the damn monsters aren't even immersed in the same damn lighting. I get that as a country we don't have Marvel CGI money, or at least past Marvel CGI money, but if you can't afford to make it look good in the first place, just why bother making it, you know? The Shake, Rattle, and Roll series has put out banger stories with minimal CGI, so just do that. If you guys didn't mind it as much, that's fine. As for the movie itself, it's actually pretty down there. I didn't really enjoy any of the stories. If I were to pick a best of the 3, I guess I would pick Ulam. Much like other Shake, Rattle, and Roll stories in the past, it's hindered by the runtime, even though it's the longest of the 3. It feels like a slow burn film that was chucked into a train furnace. Flight 666 is an entertaining watch though, not because of the story, but because I had fun making fun of it, and Ahas just sucks. But what do you guys think? Was it good? Was it bad? Tell me your thoughts down in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you want to see more, and if you have another movie suggestion, also tell me down in the comment section below. Thanks to Samuel Roth 8265 for this movie suggestion. I've been Nate, and I will see you around. So it turns out I missed the post-credit scene, and Iggy Moda fucking survived. Best character ever.